Hello and welcome. I'm Natalie Saunderson. Thank you for being in this space. This channel is dedicated to not only my love of the yoga practice, but in many ways my fascination with the human journey. And one of these concepts that I came across many years into my yoga practice was this concept of the soul. And for me, I like to share that it was not necessarily the first thing that drew me to yoga, but it was an evolution of me starting to feel a lot of different connections and having experiences in my own life that started to make sense around this concept of a soul. So just a little bit of background so that you really get an idea of where I'm coming from. I did not grow up in any type of religious or spiritually inclined household. I was fairly sensitive and intuitive from a pretty young age, and I think that set me up to be primed to feel things underneath what was immediately happening around me. So I'll give you some examples when I was little, and maybe you can see yourself in these examples. It was always very easy for me to pick up on people's emotions and what wasn't being said in a room, right? It was always very easy for me to assess a situation very quickly when I walked into a room. It was also very easy for me to understand a bigger picture, and this was kind of what took me into my second and third decade. I was often aware of a much bigger picture than what was just happening in that moment. And whatever perception I had as I've gotten older has continued to change and grow the more I understand and kind of unpack who I am and how I tick. So one of the first things that led me to start to open my understanding and belief in a soul was to practice yoga, physically speaking, quite diligently, very consistently, and start to connect with a part of me that was very tuned in. And I mean that in a way that it was very intuitive. So often if I was practicing a lot of yoga, I would get even more insights or dreams that were relevant to what was happening in my waking day. I would also start to see a lot of synchronicities, or people I'd think about would show up. And I know that this is an active part of all of our lives. But when I started to practice yoga physically in a very dedicated fashion, this part of my life got turned up a lot. So that was the first kind of intriguing part of the yoga practice, aside from it just being physically really satisfying and really great for my mental and emotional state. The second piece that started to draw me in would be the study of astrology. And the study of astrology is maybe not for everybody. It was definitely in my path. And it helped explain certain ways that I was predisposed or built, that maybe previous to that understanding or that view, I had possibly struggled with or not really understood. And one thing that when we begin to deep dive into our self-study or any other aspect that is a sister science or supporter of yoga, which is you in union with yourself and in harmony with the world around you, when you dive into any other study, it has to bring you back to a place of either resonating or not. Now, this is also a path that each of us are coming to in very different places. So you likely know when you hit some piece of information or body of work or person, and you immediately vibe with what they're saying. Something resonates deeper than your understanding of the actual information, and you feel like this is something that you'd like to learn more of. Okay, that's what happened for me in astrology. And even though I'm no longer in the same relationship, in the same depth, with the same focus on astrology, it was a very, very interesting deep dive into my life path, the way that I work, my disposition, the qualities, the core qualities that I have that go beyond my personality, because my personality has changed so much over the years. There's a couple of key core concepts that for whatever reason really speak to me, right? And I have a very difficult time being put in situations where I'm, that is contrasting to my key core concepts. So that also became very clear to me that I have some kind of makeup or build that goes beyond my family history or my current life experiences or something I learned about when I was younger. It just sunk in at a very deep level. Okay, moving along, the third stage for me that started to become a little more intriguing around what is a soul? And what is my soul here to do? And this channel is going to introduce ideas to you, and I hope and expect you to take the idea wherever you feel you need to next. My personal strength and my personal interest point is not necessarily understanding the entire reason that life is the way that it is. What I'm passionate about is understanding why am I here and what am I doing with my time here. And that third piece for me began to be some very interesting experiences that I called into my life. Experiences that I wasn't always able to describe or explain in any type of therapeutic setting that I currently understood. So it was not an everyday type of conversation because I was being initiated into another type of energy or another way to live and work with life. Right? And it goes beyond manifestation. There was just some real clear feedback that started coming into my life. Interesting people, you could say not even people, some dreams that I had, some very abrupt kind of awakening points that then tipped me further into understanding different levels of life that are happening around us. And whatever the background you are watching this, I think that for many of us, our walk towards that deeper way of living is unique, and it's supposed to be unique. So by no means does it need to look like that for you. Everybody gets closer to their kind of depth or soul in their own way with their own story that got them to that depth. The other way that I finally felt like I was working with my life path, my guides, in a way that was very soul-driven is because my physical body would start to react quite strongly if I was in a situation that wasn't in alignment. So the beauty of having a yoga practice is that your body is almost like an instrument. And within this ability to learn how your instrument is best played and utilized, you get to become very sensitive to whatever comes into your physical space. And this looks at first can be quite an intriguing addition to your life because it will feel like you can actually sense more. Not only will you sense more, but you're likely going to see and feel more, because you have heightened your ability to perceive and tap into other things. The cool thing is, it's going to give you very quick feedback when something isn't working for you. And that doesn't mean that whatever you've decided isn't working for you doesn't work for someone else, right? So we start to understand that it's actually not about seeing the world and me teaching you, whoever you are that's watching this, how to live your life better. I'm actually here to teach you practices to help you figure out how to live your life better. Because there is very, very clear, there is a clear system that walks us towards becoming more embodied. And we use the yoga practice on this channel, but there are a lot of other modalities that will also support you in doing the same thing. So I hope that that breaks down a little bit of my storyline in terms of what drew me to use the language of soul in my videos. There is so many amazing people out there online these days that go into different aspects of the soul. One of the things that I have to say, a very quick, easy way to see if something resonates with you or not, is when you first hear or step into a situation, listen. Listen to how your body responds. If you feel like your breath shortens, if you feel like you clench in any way, if you lean back, or the opposite, do you feel yourself relax? Do you feel yourself intrigued? Do you feel your thoughts go quiet because you're really trying to hear more? Whatever it is that your body immediately responds to is often the first indicator of what does or doesn't resonate for your soul. The mind will kick in very quickly. And this is part of why I recorded my previous video around why yoga practice is so essential at this time. It slows us down to a place where we can actually differentiate and hear the difference between that first initial gut kick to something and then what our minds have created a story around. And they might be really on the same page sometimes, and other times they might be in conflict. And that's where we get the opportunity to really practice integrating that difference. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you being here in this space. Please feel free to leave comments below. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video.